you go. It worked. Great. I also, if you want to hit the next slide there, Evelyn, want to make sure that we kick this off by acknowledging that we are all calling in from across the land that is often called Canada, which is the traditional territory of many Indigenous people and nations. For me here in Toronto, this is the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is currently home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Dish with One Spoon Covenant. The land you call home is also the traditional territory of Indigenous peoples. If you know the history of your land, this is a good opportunity to pause and reflect on that heritage. If you don't know, we've got a website on the screen, native-land.ca, which we have found is a good resource for learning more about the people who made their homes on the land you currently share, both before the invasion by European settlers and to this day. I also want to note that today, any acknowledgement of the land we share must be accompanied by an acknowledgement of the invasion that brought us to be here today, an invasion that displaced entire nations and sought to destroy entire cultures in the pursuit of stolen wealth. Any acknowledgement of the land that we now all call home must, in 2021, 6 years after the publication of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's report, not only acknowledge that historical and ongoing legacy of violence and our complicity in reaping the benefits of it, but also must be a call to action for settlers to put a halt to that violence, to join arm in arm, to put an end to it. Because that struggle is a shared struggle. That violence is ongoing, as we will see tonight. That invasion continues today. Armed force is still deployed to force Indigenous people off their land. Machines of war are still used to seize resources for extraction on unceded territory. The might and power of the government is still drafted into service to suppress, occupy, and steal Indigenous territory. The invasion continues today. So as we embark on the campaign before us to defend our planet and deliver justice for all, we are rising in solidarity with generations of land defenders who came before us and those land defenders today who are carrying that work forward. This work, these campaigns, can only occur within a framework that prioritizes justice for Indigenous people. This work can only deliver the future we need if we guarantee that future is shared equitably with those from whom so many futures have already been stolen. If we are not explicit about that commitment, then we resign ourselves to being complicit in that theft. There is no climate action without climate justice. I want you to take that spirit into our event tonight. And so let's take a look at the agenda we have ahead of us on the next slide here. We are going to, we've just done a bit of a welcome. We're going to have some great speakers I'm really excited to hear from tonight, Richard Brook and Eve as well. And we're also going to have the campaign overview from Evelyn. And then we'll show you exactly how you can get involved in helping to make a difference. And then we'll have a little bit of Q&A at the end to make sure you get your questions answered. Really excited to have some excellent and inspiring speakers here tonight to help us understand the context in which the campaign is unfolding. But before we turn the floor over to them, we did want to share a short video from the front lines of climate destruction. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the Zoom overview. I'm so used to Zoom that don't want to miss that. I'm sure all of you are very used to Zoom. Many of us are perhaps too familiar with it, but just in case, if you want to turn your camera on, you're invited to. Love to see other people's faces, but you're also certainly welcome to turn it off if you feel more comfortable that way. We have the screens kind of taken over by these slides. If you prefer not to have that, then at the top of your screen, there is a view options button you can use. And if you open that up and select exit full screen mode, you will reclaim your monitor from our slides. You can use the rename function, which you can get at by hovering over your name in the participants menu, clicking on more and then selecting rename. You can use that if you like to add your pronouns as I've done, if you're comfortable with that. This event will be closed caption. I'm going to turn on the live transcript right now. That's my oversight. I should have done that earlier. So that is now on. I will warn you that the captions are automatic. They are better than nothing. They are certainly not perfect, and they are a bit Anglo-centric. So please be alert that they are not going to be perfect, but they are available to you. If you have any trouble with Zoom or any tech support that you require, please go ahead and message me directly. You can use the chat function to select, if you hit 2, and it should say everyone normally. If you just select my name, then you can get a hold of me and I'll answer your questions as best I can. Similarly, doing a Q&A, you can use the chat to send your questions to me and we'll pass them along to our speakers. So without further ado, if you want to bring it on to the next one, we do have a video to share with you from the front lines of climate destruction. Take it away, Evelyn.
Morning. Okay, if we come and chat with you?
I can give you the number of our public relations person if you want to get in contact with somebody.
We just want to make sure everybody's safe, like usual, right? As you know, we're impartial to everything here.
I think we know you well enough. There's no need in the niceties and the lies. I've been removed off of my territory before by JR here. You facilitated violent raids with sniper rifles, K9 units on our territory, on unarmed people, defending and upholding our responsibilities. So you don't need to try and tell me that you're here for anybody's safety and that you're impartial. We know better than that, and so do you.
Is there anything that we can do here today to move this forward?
You can go through the process and talk to the appropriate people.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Evelyn. We're going to stop that video there, but it does go on, and you're certainly welcome to view it. It's tough. It's tough viewing. It's police violence. It's police brutality deployed in the service of wealth extraction. Whoops. We can just, there you go. Thanks. And that's what we're up against, because it's a shared struggle. So wanted to make sure you saw that, an opportunity to experience it secondhand, I guess. Want to turn the floor over now to our first speaker, Yves Saint. Yves Saint is a Wet'suwet'en land defender, organizer, public speaker, one of the 4 Indigenous land defenders arrested February 7th, 2020 at Gedempton Checkpoint, which helped spark the Shutdown Canada movement across the nation and in other parts of the world, with actions blocking highways, borders, and railways. Eve is part of the Gedempton Checkpoint financial campaign team. She is based in Toronto, Ontario. Over to you, Eve.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm super excited that you all could be here. And I just wanted to share a bit about my experience and what's going on the ground. As some of you may know, that Wet'suwet'en people are under attack on their territory. Molly Wickham, also known as Slato, her traditional name, has taken over a drill site, Coastal GasLink's drill site that was meant to drill under one of our sacred headwaters, one of our sacred rivers. And so right now, land defenders are doing everything that they can in order to not have this pipeline built. So we are looking at another urgent time, especially in this time of climate crisis. And I'm happy that this Global Day of Action, October 29th, is being organized so we can highlight what is going on, especially right now, because Coastal GasLink is being funded by these big banks. And so we're targeting RBC. And so we just like to highlight what's going on in Wet'suwet'en territories. If we have some links to share with you, if you can check out yintaaccess.com, and there you'll find like the history of the Wet'suwet'en struggle, videos. Please sign up for their emailing list. And yes, sorry, I just lost my train of thought there, but yeah, it's pretty urgent. That video they're starting to have a buildup of RCMP on the in a nearby town. And as there was another part to that video where a land defender had an encounter with the RCMP, and the RCMP used paying compliance. And so it's a little urgent that we all take action right now. And we shouldn't wait until, you know, something big happens. We have to act now. We can't wait till it's popular. It's kind of urgent that we put pressure on these banks, we put pressure on RBC, and that we help our fellow Indigenous land defenders. They're out there laying their life on the line. It's scary out there, I'll tell you that, to have guns aimed at you and to not know if they're going to shoot you. And they're doing that for everyone. So I believe that we share a responsibility to help stop these pipelines going through, and tell our governments that we will no longer stand for this. How can we stand for a law and industry that is set out to kill us? Like, seriously, the justice system sides with industry, and they always get away with it. So we are going to have to put the pressure on. I'm a big fan of disobedience. Some of you may not be, but that's fine. I just had to put it out there. Also, there's some other links to, there's a link for a fundraiser. So this fundraiser is for Get 'em Done Checkpoint. And that's to help with legal funds and travel costs and supplies that are needed on the ground. And also, I just wanted to highlight that Una Stoden, as you know, started this fight against Coastal GasLink. And so right now, actually, Get 'em Done Checkpoint is leading this fight, because the drilling that's happening under the river is happening on my father's territory. My father is one of the hereditary house chiefs, Chief Was. And so right now, Get 'em Done is leading the fight on this one, because it's happening on my father's territory. Also, we have a link to a Twitter campaign. It's the link you can put in your information, and it will automatically tag RBC and telling them to stop funding and drop Coastal GasLink. So I think that's all I wanted to talk about, just the urgency of the matter. And thank you for everyone's support. Please share all the videos on Get 'em Done, on Yinta Access. And if you're a part of social media and you follow Get 'em Done Checkpoint on Facebook and on Twitter, for Instagram, it's Yinta Access. And so I will just pass it over to our next speaker, and thank you for your time. And we're in this all together, and we can do it. We have the power. We just did it with our voice and our bodies, and we can do this. Let's put the pressure on these banks. Thank you.
Thanks, Eve. I think I'm up next. Welcome everybody. It's great to see so many people on the call. My name is Richard Brooks. I'm the Climate Finance Director at Stand.Earth. Been working on climate and divestment issues for a few years now, and have worked for many years on corporate campaigns. And that's very much what we're talking about tonight and going forward is a corporate campaign against one of the biggest corporations in Canada. Go to the next slide. As many of you know, we have a big climate summit coming up in just under a month's time at the beginning of November, COP26. Climate summit will be happening. The focus of this year's COP, which is probably one of the most critically important COPs of all the previous COPs, is focused on finance and moving governments and non-governments, corporations and private investment to align with the 1.5 degree world. And so it's an opportune moment to focus our energies as activists on the money and where the money is flowing. Part of the reason why we've been so slow at getting any climate action from virtually any government on the planet is because of the power and influence of fossil fuel companies. And the one thing that has enabled the fossil fuel companies more than anything else is money. The ability to drill, the ability to build new power plants, the ability to lobby government officials against climate action, that all is rooted in money. And so in the last few years, as many of you know, we've started to focus in on that money trail and working it backwards from the fossil fuel extractors to those who are basically enabling their business to exist. In many cases, those are big banks. And in the last few years, we've seen the launch of several bank campaigns around the world that have been quite successful in moving banks to adopt some exclusion policies, for example, stopping financing coal, and really move the conversation forward about the role of finance in enabling fossil fuel companies. So with the COP26 coming up, and with our Canadian banks having such a role in financing fossil fuel companies, a few months ago, a bunch of groups got together to start talking about how we could bring the heat to bear on these companies. In the last year, we've seen a lot of banks, including our Canadian banks, put out big statements saying that they are going to be investing in sustainable investments, that they are going to, in the next 30 years, reduce their emissions, their finance emissions to zero by 2050. So lots of greenwashing of their brands and their reputations. But when you scratch below the surface and you look at where the money continues to flow, it flows in pretty massive ways to fossil fuel companies, including companies that are right in the process of expanding fossil fuel infrastructure. So October 29th is what we're focusing this call on, is prep for that. And it's going to be a global day of action against the banks and other financial institutions that are enabling fossil fuel companies and holding back climate action. It's 1 week before the COP. And in Canada, what we're proposing to do is to target RBC, one of the largest funders of fossil fuels in the world. Next slide. So I'll just present to you some of the kind of the financial case for focusing on RBC. RBC is the largest Canadian bank. So if only for that reason, it's a good reason to focus on them. They are also the largest Canadian financier of fossil fuel companies. Since the Paris Agreement was signed just under 6 years ago, they have put more than $200 billion into fossil fuel companies, including companies that are, including $14 billion in coal and coal exposed companies, and about $65 billion into companies that are actively expanding fossil fuel infrastructure. So building new power plants that are fossil fuel based, building new pipelines or terminals to transport and store oil, gas, including mining operations as well. So the financial case for focusing on RBC, I think, is significant too, because they have the biggest record when it comes to financing fossil fuel companies. And we also know that as the largest bank and as one of the most established brands in Canada, they have an incredible influence over the rest of their sector. So you pick on the biggest and you move the biggest, and the others will follow. And that's basically the basis of our theory of change, besides the financial arguments for focusing on RBC. They have also extremely close ties with the federal government. And there was a piece that came out about a year ago on the CEO of RBC, kind of reflecting on his experience of the early months of the pandemic. And in it, he spoke very clearly and openly about having the ear of the Prime Minister and how they talked on a daily basis during the height of COVID. So when we're looking at moving governments to take more aggressive climate action, particularly here in Canada, for our implementation plans to meet our ambition, we need to be able to get into the ear of those who are making decisions and influencing government. And it's clear that RBC has quite a bit of influence with our government. And the last reason, I think, and perhaps the most important one for this call and to what you were speaking to, is that there are several big fossil fuel projects that are being built and constructed in Canada right now. One of the largest projects is the LNG Canada LNG facility out in BC and the Coastal GasLink pipeline. And RBC is one of the largest financiers of both of those projects. They have $6.4 billion in equity and bonds of LNG related companies. And they have also been the key lender and agent on a $6.5 billion construction loan to CGL. If that loan didn't exist, then CGL wouldn't be getting built right now. It's all based on loan money. And RBC is definitely one of the biggest backers of Coastal GasLink and LNG Canada. So our theory change around this is if we move the money out of these projects, then these projects no longer become financially viable and construction grinds to a halt. And we've seen this happen before. Not only is RBC one of the biggest backers of Coastal GasLink and LNG Canada, they are also one of the biggest lenders and financiers to Enbridge, who many of you know are just trying to complete the Line 3 tar sands pipeline in Minnesota right now over much on the ground and Indigenous opposition by water protectors and land defenders. So quite a bit of exposure to many of the companies who are actively building or trying to build right now some of the biggest fossil fuel projects on the planet. And that's the other reason for focusing on RBC. And I'll turn it over to Evelyn.
Yeah, so thank you to both Eve and Richard for providing that context and making clear the problem that we're facing. So just to introduce myself, my name is Evelyn and I'm the project manager of Banking on a Better Future, a youth-led initiative to mobilize youth across so-called Canada on bank divestment. So following Eve and Richard, I'm just going to jump in here and talk a little bit about campaign strategy and our plan to win. So across the globe, activists and frontline communities are turning to the role of private finance in the climate crisis and calling on major banks, insurers, and investors to stop the money pipeline. There are active movements all over the world, from Chase Bank in the United States to Standard Chartered in the UK to Deutsche Bank in Germany, as well as insurers like AIG and Lloyd's and major investors like BlackRock. We believe that we can win our fight against RBC by tapping into the growing momentum globally, and within so-called Canada, we can combine massive sustained grassroots pressure with public relations, media work, and shareholder activism. So this means building a national movement that follows and centers frontline communities and is supported by settler climate activists. So a bit about our strategy. Our strategy emphasizes putting pressure on RBC's greatest assets, their reputation and brand. So I'm sure many of you have noticed that RBC is often a huge funder of cultural events and educational institutions, scholarships, and even green initiatives. And through this, they maintain a greenwashed social license that shields them from accountability in their devastating lending and investing processes. So because of this, our intention is to make RBC's climate impact known and visible, to tell the truth about their climate destruction. We'll do this by uplifting and spotlighting RBC's support for projects that violate Indigenous rights and worsen conflicts with frontline communities, and by moving the media narrative to apply pressure to key decision makers. So we'll pressure institutional shareholders to take bolder climate action and apply direct pressure to some of the bank's key decision makers like the board and CEO. So for example, David McKay, RBC's CEO, was recently in 2020 named Corporate Citizen of the Year by the Globe and Mail, in part because his decisions have, quote, made his company an excellent corporate citizen via its environmental, social advocacy, community, and other corporate social responsibility initiatives. So our job in this campaign is to make it clear that these claims are false and will continue to be false until RBC stops funding fossil fuel expansion and colonial violence. So how do we build public pressure? Number one, we tell the truth about RBC without hesitation. Two, we tell a story in this campaign that demystifies finance and clearly ties the banks to the climate crisis and emphasizes frontline impacts. Three, we'll make our demands very clear that RBC must stop funding fossil fuel expansion and must respect and uphold free and prior-informed consent and cease funding for projects like Coastal GasLink that violate Indigenous rights and hereditary title. And then fourth, we'll hold actions across Canada, engaging RBCs at all levels to funnel pressure up to the top. So you may not live near a big major regional bank branch, but that doesn't matter. The more RBC employees across the country that hear about these concerns, the more pressure those key decision makers at the top will feel to take action, and the more threatened their public image and brand will be. So there's a growing number of grassroots and NGO groups that are mobilizing across the country to take on RBC. And if your group isn't already represented here, you can join us. So I'm going to pass this over now back to Tim, who will talk more about the October 29th Day of Action and how you can get involved.
Awesome. Thanks, Evelyn. Really appreciate it. And thanks also to Richard and Eve for coming and sharing your insights and experiences tonight. Really appreciate that as well. I'm really excited that we are doing this campaign action as part of a big global coalition. I think for those of you who don't know me, my name is Tim. Pronouns are he, him, and I'm an organizer for Leadnow. Definitely see some familiar faces in the audience tonight. If you're a Leadnow volunteer, you know exactly what's coming next. But for those of you who are new or are here from our allies and partners, this next phase of the webinar is the part where we get to personally can take action to help make a meaningful difference. So in a minute, I'm going to ask you to get involved in taking action with us, and I'll give you a specific concrete step you can take to do so. But before I do, we've heard about the theory of change for the campaign as a whole. I'm going to share the theory of change for this specific action we're about to take on the 29th. That is how we think what we're going to ask you to do can actually make the change we need to happen and apply the pressure that we need. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We are swinging for the big leagues here. RBC has every ounce of power and influence that money can buy. But I believe there are two things going for us that give us an opening to actually change the behavior of a massive bank like RBC. First, and I want you to really take this in, our victory in this is inevitable and they know it. I'll say that again. Our victory is inevitable and they know it. They're not stupid. They can read the writing on the wall. They know that the age of fossil fuels and colonial exploitation is over. It's ending. They are not continuing to invest in expansion and exploitation out of some evil plot to destroy the planet. They're doing it out of greed, out of crass calculation. They're making this calculation about how far they can ride this dying industry while it still makes them a lot of money. They know that at some point, it's going to cost them more money than the trouble is worth. They know that day is coming. They're trying to ride it out to the last possible second, get that last penny of wealth, and they'll jump ship as soon as the day arrives where that calculus changes. Our job is to show them that that day has come. Here's the second thing we have going for us. My work is often a lot about problem solving. Spreadsheets and websites, event planning, logistics, and I love it. There's power in problem solving. There's power in logistics. We need that. We'll have that. It will always serve us in good stead. There is also a deeper power on our side in the struggle. There is a real power in solidarity, in mass movement. There's a real power in rising to protect our Mother Earth. There's a real power in rising to link arms with those who have for too long been forced to defend themselves alone. There is a real power in rising together to break the chains of domination that our ancestors have sought time and again to coil around this land and its people. There is a moral and a spiritual power in rising together for justice and dignity and liberation. There is a power behind us and among us and within us that is the ancestral birthright of all who rise together to defend the land and reclaim our shared future. That power is our power. There is no oil baron, no corporate billionaire who can dare to stand against that power when it is channeled through tens of thousands of people joining in solidarity and demanding that enough is enough. So this is what we are going to do. On October 29th, people just like me and just like you all over the planet are going to be rising up to reclaim our future together, to insist that we will no longer accept a crass capitalist calculus that extracts profits from human suffering and loots its revenues from our collective welfare. Here in Canada, we'll do that in two concrete ways. In Montreal, Vancouver, and Toronto, we are going to take to the streets with big flagship actions in locations that RBC executives and leadership cannot possibly ignore. At the same time, all across the country, volunteers like you will be hosting actions outside of RBC branches in towns and cities from coast to coast. These actions, big and small, are designed to shine a spotlight on RBC's huge investments in fossil fuels and their reliance on dominance and exploitation of Indigenous people and nations for their profits. Again, RBC executives are not stupid. They know this stuff is unpopular. They are relying on a general lack of awareness, bolstered by a few glossy greenwashing ad campaigns, to extend the length of time they can keep riding their oil exploits. By reaching their customers directly and their local branches directly in a massive day of action, we will be showing them that our message is going to get right in front of their customers, right in front of their frontline employees, right in front of the public at large. And that starts to shift their calculus. Now, Leadnow has already run a campaign against RBC branches, and as a result, I can assure you, they know we're here, and they are worried. By showing up in big numbers, and I mean big numbers, and distributed across a big chunk of the country, we are showing them that not only are we not going away, we are growing. Here's the critical bit. This only works if we make it big. We are part of a massive global movement, all taking action the same day, one big day, just days before the massive COP26 conference begins. That conference is huge. That means the spotlight is going to be shining, and we have a chance to direct it right at RBC, but it only works if we all show up. So I'm about to put a link in the chat to a sign-up form. By filling out this very brief form, you're telling us that you're ready to get plugged in to this action and host or attend an action near you. We have put together a comprehensive toolkit that explains step-by-step exactly how to run an action at your local branch. We have a team of skilled volunteers and organizers ready to support you every step of the way. You're in this as part of a team, and your team is counting on you. So I'm going to put this in the chat. Uh-oh. My chat has frozen. If someone else can put it in the chat, that would be great. It's the link to sign up. It's in the script. I'll put it here. Sorry, I don't know why my chat froze. So Evelyn, if you could throw that in the chat, that'd be great. This form to sign up, when you fill that out, it lets us know that you're in to be part of this day of action. And one of our organizers will be in touch with you within 48 hours to connect you to any other volunteers in your area via shared email, equip you with our toolkit, and answer any questions, provide any support that you need. Now, I know a lot of you are already filling it out, I'm sure. Bless you for that. Some of you may still be questioning, maybe hesitating a bit, and that's okay. Maybe you've never hosted an action before. Maybe you don't think of yourself as a frontline activist. Maybe you just need more information. It's all totally understandable. I'll just say this. Think about why you came to the webinar tonight. I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I know that when I go to something like this, it's because I want to make a difference. I feel the hurt in the world. I feel the urgency of the moment. I know there's a problem, and I feel compelled to do what I can to fix it. I am not a psychic or a visionary. I can't guarantee that this action is the one that's going to break RBC and deliver a better world. But after dozens of campaigns and events just like this one, what I can guarantee is that the only thing that does have a chance of working, the only thing that ever works, is regular, ordinary people just like us coming together and taking collective action in a strategic way. I am committed to doing that now and for as long as it takes. Here tonight, I wager, because you want to make that difference. We have a chance to do that. We're counting on you to be part of it. So fill out that form, sign up now, get plugged in. We'll support you to the hilt. We'll never ask you to go forward with anything you're not comfortable with. We're just asking that you stick together with us. So fill out that form. I want to thank you all for coming. I had originally planned to select questions from the chat, but my chat has frozen, not sure why. So I am going to invite you to use the chat. My Zoom is actually completely breaking up. Evelyn, if I could just pass it over to you to take on the Q&A while I try and figure out why my Zoom is frozen. That'd be great.
Sounds good. So immediately right here in the chat, we have a question. Can we hear more about what minor actions might look like? So I can answer this, or I don't know if Tim wants to take this on. I'll take this on. So minor actions can really look like anything. It can mean just like going to your local branch and doing some chalking outside of your branch with messages about what they're doing. You can also do maybe like a letter delivery. You could show up to your bank with a letter directed to the employees, telling them why you're concerned and how you'd appreciate it if they would tell those higher up why you're concerned and what the problem is, and sort of funnel that pressure up to the top. You can do a little bit bigger scale. You could do a banner drop, show up with banners and signs, do some chanting outside. It's really up to you. It's up to your capacity and your ability. Depends on how many people you think you can get out. So if there's only just a couple of you, you can do sort of just like a banner drop, some chalking, drop off a letter, talk to some employees. I don't know. Does anybody else have anything they want to add to ideas? Tim does. Go ahead.
Yeah, Evelyn, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, at least it sounds to works. Technology is great till it isn't. Well, I'm glad you can hear me. Yeah, there's lots of options. We do have a toolkit with a few suggested actions and some advice for exactly how to conduct them. We also have folks who are going to have a one-on-one call with you when you get involved and sign up for an action, who can take you through planning your action to suit whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you think will have the most impact at your local branch. So lots of opportunities there. But again, the thing I really want to stress is that we are here for you to equip you with the information you need. You do get a nice comprehensive toolkit, and you do have our very experienced volunteers behind you to answer your questions and get you what you need to make it successful.
All right, I'm digging for more questions. There was one at Richard earlier. Richard, if you do leave for another bank, oh, maybe this is just a comment. Richard, if you do leave for another bank, make sure to tell them why you're leaving while you're still an account holder, as it has more impact. Customers are an important stakeholder. Leaving is great, but important to communicate why others. Communicate why, otherwise they can assume that you found cheaper and more convenient banks. So yeah, I think that's a point that we always try to stress is if you're going to leave your bank, if you're making that choice, just make sure to really emphasize why and make it really clear, and maybe make some noise before you do. So for the months leading up to when you leave, just make sure that you're talking to your bank and complaining before you finally make that switch. Richard, did you want to add anything to that?
No, but I'll read a question that came in right near the end there. Somebody from the Toronto organizing group wants to know if they should still sign up or if it's unnecessary if they're already connected. I would say, Cassie, that would probably be good to go ahead and just sign up anyways. And then if you need to unsubscribe because you're getting double information, then you can do so.
I'll add to that, Richard, that yeah, by signing up here, we are going to work to connect folks to others in their area. So when you sign up here, that means we'll know where you are and we'll know who else is near you, so we can get you plugged in together and make sure this is one cohesive movement on our day of action.
So we have a question, are there graphics people can print? Is there a digital toolkit for social media?
Yes and yes. The digital toolkit is, I think, already ready, maybe not, but that will be linked in your toolkit as well, and there will certainly be graphics to share. And I also know that some of the local grassroots groups are creating their own graphics, like we saw that poster earlier that looked fantastic, and I'm sure that people will be able to share those around. So lots of opportunity there. And if you are handy with graphics and want to create something, we'd love to see it and spotlight it.
All right, I'm still digging around here. There was a question about ethical banks to switch to, and somebody in the chat shared bank.green has some options. So the website URL is just bank.green. If you go to Making on a Better Futures website as well, we have some things linked there, so I can share that in the chat in a minute. Any strategy for media outreach? Is that something that's included in the toolkit, perhaps?
Sure is.
Fantastic.
There's even a guide in the toolkit for like how to take a good photo. Like we really tried to think of everything. And if there's anything that's not in there that you still have questions about, like I said, we're definitely around to help you out.
I think question for Tim, will you help connect us with others who have signed up or other Leadnow supporters in our area?
100%. And also, so what'll happen is when you get the toolkit, you choose a location near you, you'll pick your branch and create your event, and then it'll go on a map after we've talked to you and made sure everything's working out for you. And that will enable other volunteers to find that event and RSVP, and you'll be able to get in touch with them directly. And I know Leadnow is planning to do some recruitment of our members to let them know about events near them so they can see that map and find an event and attend, which will help to bring people to you. And I suspect our other coalition partners will do the same. So there's a lot of institutional support behind you as well to ensure that you get the support you need.
So someone says, are there resources on approaching our employers who are also banking with RBC? Maybe Richard, can I toss this to you?
Yeah, there are some resources on the RBC Revealed website. Your basic facts about all the stuff that we've detailed tonight. Their violations of Indigenous rights. There are different levels of financing to different types of fossil fuel sectors. It's all on the website. There are some materials there that I think you could pull from to kind of inform a conversation and prep you for a conversation with your employer. And definitely recommend doing your research beforehand. And I'll put a couple of extra links in the chat now with other resources that you can take a read.
Okay, maybe a bit of a strategy question. In Ottawa, would it be better to do many branches or focus all on a downtown main action? And I think what we're encouraging people to do is to focus, if you can, focus on a core action just to get more attention that way, sort of draw more attention to yourself and passersby, or maybe potentially bring in more media attention. The bigger the action, potentially, the more likely it is that media outlets might pick it up. But if you don't have a bigger action accessible to you, like if you live in sort of a smaller town or a more remote area with just a smaller branch, that's totally okay too. And just really focus on engaging with those employees and making sure that they are communicating to those above them who maybe have more influence on these things. Question for Tim, how do we get the toolkit so that we can register?
Great. The link to sign up should be in the chat, and I see many of you have already signed up, so thank you for that. Just sign up there, and then what we will do is within 48 hours, one of our volunteers or organizers will be in touch with the toolkit and next steps for you. So we'll take you down the path that way.
Okay, so Richard is sharing some more resources in the chat there. Is it legal to talk to people entering the branch? I would say yes, it is legal. Yes, especially if you're a customer, you should feel really empowered to go in there and talk to anybody. But even if you're not, there's nothing really stopping you from going in and talking to anybody.
And I would add, it is important to remember that the RBC employees at the branches are not our opponents, and they're not bad people. They are just doing their jobs. And so we want to engage respectfully, kindly. We're doing the right thing, and it's important to be respectful and kind. And also, you have every right to be there. And often there's public sidewalks right in front that you can gather in, which are fully public, fully accessible, and you can go from there and chat with people and raise your banners and go inside and talk to the manager and so on. One other thing related I want to add is that it's expressly laid out in the toolkit, but want to make it clear here that we do strongly encourage just being very COVID safe. Wear your masks, maintain social distancing, follow the guidelines of public health in your area. That is important as well. For the same reason, it is a movement built on respect and dignity. We want to make sure that we adhere to that in terms of public safety as well.
All right, so let's see. Oh, so yes, this has been recorded, right, Tim? Is that correct?
Yes. So we'll have a recording available to you.
Okay. So unless I've missed any crucial questions, in which case just send them in the chat again, if you don't mind. I think we've sort of covered the bases here.
Did them all. That's great. Well, if you think of something later that you wish you'd asked and didn't think to during the thing, which I know happens to me all the time, you can always reach us if you email organize@leadnow.ca or preferred, just sign up and we'll be in touch anyway, and we can get your questions answered there. I see still people are signing up. I see new people just signing up right now. So please go ahead and do that. Like I said, this only works if we make it work. We are counting on all of you to be part of this team and part of this movement. You're here because you want to make a difference, and this is one chance to do that. So please give that a look and sign up. We'll be in touch within 48 hours to get you the next steps. And I think if that's the end of the questions, were there any more, Evelyn?
There was just one that I saw. Someone asks about whether or not you should make the bank branch aware of the action beforehand, if you should alert media beforehand, and if there's anybody else you should alert beforehand or make aware. So I would say let media know if there's like local media in your town that you want to hopefully get out, send them like a heads up, a media advisory, or give them a phone call, write them an email, and try to get them out if you can. I don't think, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you really need to let the branch know in advance. And I don't know if there's anybody else that you really need to let know in advance besides people that you want to show up and be in support. And then there's a question, is there a map to see the actions appearing?
Yes, there's a website called RBCrevealed.ca. Maybe it's .com, I think it's .ca. And on that site will be the map, which will show all of the actions that have been activated by folks. So that will appear there. You'll be able to find ones near you. And if there's none near you, that's a great cue to start your own up. And also, if you're in one of those flagship cities like Toronto or Vancouver or Montreal, there will be one set up right away. It's already activated, where we know there's going to be a big turnout and a big organizing team behind those actions. So you'll find all that on the map, and that will be on that website. In fact, it's already up.
All right, and then there's also just a request for an email follow-up with all the links that we've shared here. That'll be going up. Yep, okay. You'll get that after the call.
We will follow up with everyone who signed up. If you are an attendee who did not sign up for follow-up action, then there is not a scheduled email for you. But if you'd like those links and have not signed up yet, sign up. But also, you can just email us at organize@leadnow.ca, and we'll get you a copy of those. Just let us know. Great. I can't see the Zoom at all, so I don't know what's happening. Hopefully everyone's had a good time. I appreciate you all coming out and being part of this. I want to shout out again, Evelyn, Richard, and Eve for being part of this movement and all the work you did tonight, but also I know you do a lot behind the scenes and have been key parts of this movement for a while, so really appreciate that. And also thanks to all of you for spending time on your fall evening on a call, learning about this, and really looking forward to working together, really looking forward to having an impact, and really looking forward to inviting RBC to be a better citizen and a better part of our community by accepting the future that is inevitable, a sustainable, just, liberated future that respects Indigenous sovereignty and that builds a true liberated society together. So looking forward to building that with you all. We'll be in touch. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon. Have a great night, everyone.